there's a sad and extreme desensitization to a lot of things in America. I want to point out three things. Classism, and these aren't in no particular order. Classism, rape/assault, right? And murder, right? Things that happen every hour of the day, if not every minute of the day, somewhere within a multitude of zip codes, it's going into the 20th century or 21st century. It's like, oh, we're in the 20th century, right? Where mass media came about, right? Reporting, documentation. And that's always been happening for generations, for centuries. But it's just exasperated more. It's just more in plain sight. It's like just right in front of you. There's really no reading between the lines anymore. It's just everything is out in the open, whether it's good or bad. And obviously I'm detailing the bad stuff. I'm detailing the stuff that doesn't move the needle. I'm detailing stuff that doesn't unify us. The United States of America is ironically one of the most divided countries in the world, right? There's a political class, obviously, with the whole government, federal systems. There's there's classes within classes, there's groups within groups, sects within sects, that's what it got. There's, it makes me wonder why, it makes me wonder, why people really believe things will turn up for them in a good way. It makes me wonder how really secure you can really feel, or if you have children, or if you want children, how secure your children, or how secure you think your children would feel or be. I think the States is extremely opportunistic. And obviously, if you create your own environment being in America, right? If you do things, right? If you have curfews and, if you spend wisely and, you have a decent income, there's variables you can control, but there's just so many variables that you can't control. And that's everywhere in life. There's no escape necessarily, but there's clear-cut differences from cultures, and different, environments, right? With different ethnic groups, where things are frowned upon, considerably, and things are not even a thought, right? You have all these problems with molestation, incest, right? Kidnapping, trafficking, the list, it's just unseemly, right? And it just stems from just the generations before, that just paved the way for us, right? It's just the world, the American theme was built on classism, was built on fear, assault, and murder, right? You have multitude of ethnic groups, especially African American people, right? Going through 400 or 500 years of slavery. You have different you have different white non-American groups, right? Aborigines, the Indians / Native Americans, right? Going through genocides, mass murders, people were birthed out of distress, people worked to put a meal on their plate for 8 to 10 people in a household. Like it's unseemly, and that's the direction this has continued. We're just now in the social media era where things is accepted and things is has the ability to be monetized, right? It's crazy. It's crazy to where live in plain sight murders can happen on the internet. It's crazy that, prove guilty or innocent until proven guilty, right? If you don't have all the hard evidence or enough facts to put somebody away, right? It doesn't matter if that person assaulted or killed 10, 15, 20 people in a given time span. If you don't have enough evidence, even though a lot of people may know that this group of persons is responsible for doing such and such, it don't matter. People are acquitted. People get, released on bail, parole, It's just so much flaw. And the problem with me in this topic is that what I'm realizing is, with all the flaws, all the negativity, people can call it spiritual warfare. People can just call it evil. People just call it just being bad. People just say, life is a game, or however you want to term it. But, you go into other places in the world and the mass amount of things that you hear in a given state in America, right, is not on that same type of stage. It's not as heightened as it is in the States. Now, things happen, right, and things don't get reported, right? Places, countries, cities, territories that people never even heard of, right? But that's everywhere in the world, I think that's everywhere in the world. I can only talk to the origin country I was from, that I lived in and experienced. And it's insanity, because to have one of the best, security system. There's security technology, there's human security, there's infrastructure. To have all that, in a lot of places, most places in America, and things still happen to the degree that it happens. Well, let's look at who is, directing our states, right? Let's look at the control factors, right? Let's look at what Congress mandates, right? These House of Senates, let's look at who and what the presidents support, just like a house. The house is ran from the parents,